The pickleball return. This is one of the most undervalued shots in the game. Here's some stats from Major League Pickleball Daytona in season 1. And the team at Real Clear Stats sent this over to me. They looked at the 48 premier players in the Daytona event. The best returner, when they hit returns, the opponent kitchen arrival percentage was 49%, which essentially means you served it to me, I hit a return, you were only gonna arrive at the kitchen 49% of the time. That's pretty good. The worst returner's opponent kitchen arrival percentage was 83%, meaning when that player hit their return, their opponents on their third shots were able to get to the kitchen 83% of the time, 49% to 83%. That's quite a difference. Now, of course, there are a few other factors at play, but the information is notable and important to show how much the return means. So before we talk about technique, let's set our table and give context. In pickleball, the returning team starts with an advantage, a +1 advantage, meaning we have one player at the kitchen and the other team has 0 when we start. After I hit my return, I run up to the kitchen and now we have a +2 advantage, meaning we have 2 players up at the kitchen while they have 0. In pickleball, when we're at the kitchen, we're in our most optimal position. So we want to go from that +1 to +2 advantage and then keep that advantage, because doing so keeps our opponents away from their most optimal court positioning, which is also the kitchen. So if we hit a good return, it's easier for us to keep the advantage and win more rallies. If we hit a bad return, which is typically a short and high return, it's easier for them, our opponent, to flip the script and get aggressive, or have an easier to hit third shot drop, which will get them to the kitchen and then ultimately neutralize the point where nobody has an advantage. So let's talk about some basic return concepts. Quick interruption, zoom in, a little bit out, I got a video series, a new video series for you. 18 advanced tips to help you move up a level. Go to the description below, click the link, type in your email, and start getting videos immediately. 1 video a day for 18 days. Let's go. Now back to the video. Number 1, return and run. The big mistake often made is return, and then they stay back at the baseline. Back to the kitchen advantage example. You're giving up your advantage if you do this. The other team is gonna end up coming to the kitchen, and they're gonna have 2 people up at the kitchen, while you guys only have 1 at the kitchen. You lost your advantage. That would be like having a 10-foot head start in a race and then letting your opponent catch up. Don't let them catch up. Keep your advantage by returning and running in. Number 2, return it deep. If you return it deep, you force your opponent to hit a third shot drive or drop from further back in the court. If you think about basketball, there's a higher percentage chance of making the shot from closer than farther. Distance creates challenges. So hit it deep to create a more challenging shot on your opponent's third shot. Also, when you return it deep, you give yourself more time to get to the kitchen so you can get balanced, be still, and prepare for their third shot. Which leads to the next one, return it deep and high. If you're someone with less mobility, I add a bit more loft to the ball, so the ball is in the air longer, so you have more time to get up to the kitchen. Because remember, they can't serve and volley. They have to let the ball bounce before they can take it out of the air. So the longer the ball's in the air, the more time you have to move up to the kitchen. Number 3, return it deep and low. Deep and low will give you probably less time to get up to the kitchen, but it will be a much more challenging shot for your opponent. Bonus tip, especially if you add backspin. Many players from say 3-0 to 4-5 will struggle with this a lot because they often don't know how to handle the backspin. I'll make another video on that for you all to understand how to handle that spin, but for now, work on a cutty return, a backspin return, because it'll just die off their paddle and go into the ground and you'll win a ton of points off of your return. So now let's talk about the how and the technique for a great return. So I brought Nico, who I call an expert in returns, played high-level tennis at Notre Dame, just has a really good return. So I brought him to be in the video and to help talk about the technique. I also brought Erne. Erne is probably the most consistent, reliable drilling partner I've had. I drill with Nico all the time, and Nico wants me to do things that help his game, and that gets really annoying. Erne doesn't give a crap about me helping him. He just wants to help me, and he hits me the same shot time after time. So I brought him out to help hit us some serves. Best server I know, most consistent. If I ask for spin, it gives me spin. If I ask him for loft, he gives me loft. He doesn't deviate. You tend to deviate, but nonetheless. So we're gonna talk about technique. Here we go. So what should you think about when you're hitting your return? Well, number 1 is, where do you stand on the court? A lot of times what people do is they'll stand on the line or in front of the line, and if they get a ball that is hit deep, they'll have to back up to hit their return. So instead of standing on the line, oh gosh, ball machine problems. Take 1 to 2, what would you say? Like, oh shoot, I forgot to turn this off. So instead of being on the line or in front of the line, what would you suggest on returns?
Yeah, so I like to actually stand at least a foot behind the baseline and just test them out. If they hit a little bit faster, I'll back up to give myself more time. If they serve a little bit slower, then you can move up so you can give them less time and you have less time to go up to the net.
Number 2 is, how do you stand?
I think everyone can develop their own routines, but I think typically the best is to give yourself a wide stance, give yourself good balance and stay low. That way you get the most focused, you're the most prepared, and no matter what serve they hit, you're always gonna be balanced and ready for anything.
I think the mistake that I've made for a long time too, you've actually taught me this a bit, is just standing like nonchalantly as if the serve, and now with serves getting a lot bigger, when people are serving really hard as you get to higher levels, if you stand unprepared, you're gonna move unprepared and you're gonna move lackadaisical through your shot. And so how you stand, it's like the foundation of a house. It's the foundation of your entire swing, how you prepare for the ball to actually come your way.
One thing I'll add is like, I don't think this is something that a lot of people are used to, especially when they start out. So I would actually exaggerate like how like wide your stance is. And then, you know, as you get more comfortable, you'll get to see, but exaggerate at first. And then from there, you'll get to see, you know, what works best.
Is the splits too far?
I don't even think so. Like if you were to look across the net and you see someone like this, that's scary, you know?
So the third one is split stepping on impact. So the moment that the server is about to serve, a lot of times, and I did for a long time, I'm just standing tall like this, unprepared. We talked about the stance being the first level of preparation. It's right where you stand. Second is how you stand. The third one is the moment that they're about to make contact on their serve, we're split stepping, preparing ourselves to step in and hit the ball. You actually are probably the first one that taught me about split stepping. So what would you say is the benefit or the why behind split stepping before you hit your return?
Yeah, there's a few reasons. I think the first one is to be completely balanced when you're about to hit the ball. So in a split step, but then at the same time, when you're there, you're loaded, so you can actually go both directions, no matter where the ball is served at you. And then on top of that, whether the ball's close to you, you can load right there, or if it's far from you, it's very easy to take a step further out and then go through with the rest of the motion.
Yeah, beautiful. So it just like adds on to that level of preparation. And so after you split step, then, and this is just one way to do it. This is not the only way to hit returns. We're gonna talk about another way here in a moment. But after you're wide, you split step. The next one, you split, then you twist in order to generate the power, right? A lot of times we just try to hit with our arms, which is something I'm still working a lot at, not having a big tennis background. The power doesn't come from your arms, it comes from your legs. So after we split, we twist, actually get our hips turned a bit. Do you turn your feet or do you just turn your hips?
You can, it's just whatever you're most comfortable with.
Okay, but the principle is twist,
yep.
Load onto the foot of the side the ball's coming to. So if it's coming to me this way, I'm gonna load this way. You'll see some examples of Nico who's lefty, but when he's hitting a backhand, right, he's gonna load on the foot that the ball's coming to. Load means apply weight to, maybe say 70% of my weight is on my right foot so that I could then do the third thing, which is explode. So it's twist, load, explode. And is this accurate? You say exploding forward is 1 for power and 2 for the ability to get up to the kitchen, which is where we want to be. Is that accurate?
Exactly, okay. Yeah.
Now a quick note on return and run. The quality of your return is more important than getting to the kitchen fast. If you hit a really good deep return, you'll have time to get up there. If you just run through that thing and you don't focus on making great contact, well then you're gonna be moving toward the kitchen, but you're gonna hit a short return and the other team's gonna come blasted at you and you're gonna have to handle a ball on the move, which is a more challenging shot. Now we're coming at this from a higher level place, so serves are a lot harder. So we don't have a lot of time to turn and hit as if, you know, if you were hitting a third shot drive per se. However, let's say what a lot of times happens is we get a really floaty, lofty serve. And so people could argue, well, I don't need to be in a stance. I can just walk up there and like hit the ball. Well, if you want to hit a deeper return, prepare and practice for the level of player you're eventually going to play against, not the level of player you're currently playing with. So let's talk about that for a moment. So let's say they get a really short return. It's very soft. They have a lot of time. This right here it requires timing. What about when they get a short ball where they have a lot more time? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think intentionality is probably the most important part. I think most people naturally will just walk up to the ball and just bump it back and walk forward or run forward without giving them an easy third. But you should actually just be more intentional about what you're doing. Very similar to what you do with the split step and loading and getting power with the legs. You want to do the same. Maybe instead of doing that whole entire motion, just pretend like you're having a drive And again, you're loading with your legs and you want to push forward with them and just get more power behind you to make it harder on them to hit a third and get into the actual point.
Okay, so we brought in my friend JT. JT, we'll throw his duper up on the screen. JT has no tennis background, he actually has a baseball background, and he's never once practiced his return. So I asked him if he wanted to come and work on some of the stuff that we were just talking to you about. So we have a real life example. Are you up for it?
Yes.
You don't have a mic on, so no one heard that. Okay.
He said yes. Okay. So the first thing I'm seeing is obviously you're striking them really well, which I think with natural like athletic people, like that's gonna happen a lot, but you're taking a lot of steps into every return and then you're taking really big swings. So that just creates inconsistency. When you hit the ball well and you strike it well, it's amazing, which is what tricks most people into continuing to do this because it feels really good when you do it. But then as soon as you start seeing different serves or there's a little more pressure, the inconsistency starts to happen.
Yeah.
So another part or another big reason why you would want more simpler return is for that repeatability. So first thing I would do is focus on the split step right now.
Okay.
Right now, you're just like adjusting and kind of figuring out where the ball's gonna be. Instead, take further step back, give yourself more time. Start with a wide stance and then split step and try and take one step at most to the ball.
Okay.
Split step, it's better, it's simpler. Nice. Try and time this split step as soon as he's about to hit the ball.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
Nice.
That's good rhythm, yeah.
Nice. Okay. So another thing I see is you prefer your forehand.
Yep. 100%.
Clearly.
Yeah, don't have
so
backhand.
there's two things you can do. Obviously, like you can work on your backhand, but with this, you can actually even cheat a little bit more.
Okay.
And right now, what's happening is they're probably going to figure out, or he's just hitting you by accident to your backhand. So you're doing this and then like stepping out of the way, which you're still getting 1 to 2 steps in. But instead, what you can do, you can actually stand further out here. And if they serve closer to them, you can still split step. And you can still take one big step and cover basically the entire time, especially you, a big guy like you. And then it's a lot harder for them to get to your backhand.
Okay. Can you show me your arm motion on your swings? Like, is it compact?
Yeah.
Is it big? Yeah.
So you definitely want to keep it as compact as possible. Okay. Right now, I feel like maybe you feel like you have to get a lot of your power from a big swing. It's not the case. You can get a lot of power just from loading. So split, load, and then just twist with your core.
More hips, core, less arm.
Yep. You're good. Nice. Shorter swing.
Yep.
Nice. And try and exaggerate staying open stance instead of, I think the natural tendency is to try and get closed. To try and get swing. You can still gain a lot of power. Just by twisting and not closing your legs.
Okay, interesting.
So one is for consistency. When you feel like you have to close, like your feet can get a lot like really messed up and there's just less consistency in where everything's going to be. And then another reason is just for timing. If the serve's coming at you really fast, you just don't have time to close. And if you do close, then all of a sudden you have to rush everything else. And that becomes like where things get wild. Whereas if you're like this and all you have to do is just a quick twist, you have a lot more time and like you're prepared no matter how fast anyone serves at you.
Okay, if you're going forehand, are you left foot in front of your right on yours? Am I right foot more in front or left foot?
Yeah, so depending on which side you're gonna hit on, that's the leg you wanna load on.
Okay.
So if you're hitting a forehand, you wanna load here and push off.
Okay.
And then same thing with the backhand.
Load.
Boom, load, push off. And then you want the momentum to be going forward afterwards. Nice, that's much better flow. And then exaggerate loading off of that.
Exaggerate more?
Yeah, so like have as little weight on the non-load leg as possible so you can push off of it. Nice.
It actually drives you forward when you're forward.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
Also limits your backswing if I'm not moving my feet around it.
Exactly. Okay, so now that everything's a lot more compact and you're feeling a little bit more repeatable, try and like simulate a point. So in a point, you want to end up at the net. So after the return, after your load, try and push off and take a few steps forward to try and simulate a real life scenario. Nice, perfect. That's really good. One thing that's hard about this concept is it's really hard to time when you get really slow serves, and maybe at lower levels, or maybe people that are trying to change it up on you will hit really slow or really high serves. So in those cases, you definitely have more time and you want to try some different things out. When you have more time, you can actually start to get more closed with your stance and actually hit more similar to what you would with a drive. Again, the same concepts I think are still very important, where you want to gain most of the power with your legs, still twist and generate the power with legs and core, and also just have a really compact swing. I think a compact swing is probably the hardest thing to do when you have a lot of time and you think you have to like just pound the ball. The reality is the more compact you are and the simpler you keep things, the better. Nice. Shorten swing and then try and exaggerate how much momentum forward you have. Nice. So there you actually did it the old way. Like you can still do it split stepping and keeping yourself open, even if you have a lot more time.
Yeah, on these slower ones, I'm running around it, my footwork's going out the window.
Yeah. And that's where you get messed up. When you have more time, you have a lot more steps into it, your swing gets bigger, and things can actually get harder and more complex. Yep.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Nice. That's pretty good.
The return is one of the most important shots in the game. You gotta work on it if you wanna get better. Even if it's not affecting you negatively right now, again, prepare for the level you're working to get to, not the level you're currently at. If you want a video on serves, you can click right here or maybe right here. Shout out to my guy Nico for helping out, JT for helping out. Really bug in my face. Really appreciate them. Talk to you guys soon.